We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person, an animal, or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my central light came on and I just happened to glance and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was. Just it ran across the yard.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was. Whatever it is, it's running. I couldn't catch it if I was going to chase it. So whatever it was that was standing out there. I'm out here looking through the window now and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside. Jesus Christ, you better. Dio!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Oh, and the guy is on foot, is he?
I don't know what, he's a big, real big person. That's all I can say.
Okay, but it is a person.
Yeah, I'd say it was a person, somebody really big. But he's all in black.
Is he a black now or a white now? Did you actually see what it, or was he just wearing black?
He's all black and he's big. He is big.
Hello, everyone, from the remote jungles of Clinton Falls, Indiana. This is Larry Battson as we talk all Bigfoot on Friday night. How's everybody doing? Still in lockdown and quarantine. I know. Hello, Carrie. Hello, Debbie. Michael, nice to see you tonight. Jeff, Bob Spencer, nice to have you along. As on Friday nights, we talk all Bigfoot, and we welcome your comments, questions, anything you'd like to say. We are here to try and make an attempt at answer. We'll do the best we can. Hi, Linda. Nice to have you with us tonight. Linda says, every time I hear that recording, it freaks me out. That's a 911 call. And I don't know where it originated. There's probably someone in the Bigfoot world that does. And probably knows who called in and all that. But I've always found it quite fascinating. Yeah. Hello, Jason. Nice to have you along. Kitty's with us tonight here on Facebook Live as we talk all Bigfoot. And as I mentioned earlier, we welcome your comments, reports, anything you'd like to tell us. We'll listen. Also want to remind you that we have our Facebook page. Excuse me, I think I swallowed a bug. Our Facebook page, Footers Forum, that we have put up, and we've started putting some things on there. So check out Footers Forum on Facebook. Hello, Walt. And as you all know, I think, I am an artist, and we've done a couple Bigfoot prints that we raise money for our animal families, what we do. And hi, Betsy, nice to have you along with us tonight here on as we talk all Bigfoot. Feel like something watching you? Huh? I've got to get that picture placed just perfectly. Yes. But that is available, limited signed prints. And we have our new one that we've debuted. Is that in Iowa? Is that terrible? I don't know. We debuted here a couple weeks ago. There's a new one. And Sasquatch. It's all, that is about 3 million dots that I did that with to create that. So yeah, Sasquatch, that's available as well. Just message me through Larry the Animal Guy and Friends, Larry Battson, Footers Forum, anything like that. I'll get your message if you're interested in one of those signed and numbered prints. Been involved with the Bigfoot Sasquatch stuff for a long time. I was figuring it out just the other day, and we're close to 50 years. And it's been truly a fascinating journey. I've always said the most interesting people are the ones that actually have the sightings. They are truly fascinating. And I'm still waiting for that person to contact me that says he has a Sasquatch come over to the house for beer once a week and play cards. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm waiting for that one. And I still believe that it's out there somewhere. Well, maybe not quite that drastic. I thought many years ago, well, what year was that? 1987, when I first met that gentleman in northeastern Ohio, who had so many encounters, experiences with them, that I've always kind of looked to him as maybe a mentor, sort of, but that really knows what it's all about. He really, really knows what it's all about. I mean, he puts it in such great perspective every time I talk to him. Hello, Ian. Ian's the first time he's joined us on the Bigfoot. Thank you, Jason. That's very nice of you. How's it going, Larry? You should look up Colago later. Be safe, man. Have a great evening. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Brandon, I will. I can't read it. I think these glasses. Oh my gosh. Hello, sweetie. Hi, Gene Romo. Nice to have you along with us. One of my Bigfoot buddies. I'll tell you what, he's one of the greatest. We go to the Bigfoot conferences. I remember in Hocking Hills in Ohio a couple of years ago. We had a great time there. Lori joins us. Thank you for your service, Lori. I never do mention that, but what an amazing woman she is. Missed you too, Gene. Ian asked, have you ever had a Bigfoot experience? I have. I don't talk about it very much. I've always thought, John Green and I, hi, Loretta, nice to have you with us from New York. John Green and I, we always agreed on one thing, that once you become an eyewitness, you're maybe not quite a great researcher anymore or interviewer, because you already sold it. Once you've seen one, they exist. So you tend to want to believe everyone that has a story to tell you, and that's not always the truth. There's people that, there's guys right now home on their computers getting on these Bigfoot websites and dreaming up these amazing stories. Hit the send button, it's done, it's over, and that's, and somebody's going to see that. Hello, Bob Farrell from Paragon, Indiana. Everybody's going to see that. It's going to spread all over everywhere. But I have learned that most of the people I've talked to were telling me the truth. Were telling me the truth. They had to. For someone to say that they have seen an animal that is bipedal, somewhat human-like, but not really, covered with black, long hair, fur, and they observed it. Maybe it was just for a second or two. And sometimes that is the worst, because that may affect them more dramatically, because they only saw it for a second or two. So they doubt themselves. They said, did I really see that? Did I really see something that looks almost human, almost ape-like? And I've for years have laughed at the thought, oh, there's no such thing as a Bigfoot. There's no such thing as a Sasquatch. Who are these guys trying to fool? What's the deal here? What is the deal? Here's the deal. Here is the deal. That a lot of these researchers are people that are really fascinated, that join us here on this very program. They have seen something, and they want those doubts. They want their questions to be answered. What is it? What did I see? Should I be afraid to go into the forest anymore? Should I be afraid to go hiking, camping, fishing, hunting? Should I be? Should I think twice before I do anything along this line? Hi, Annabelle. Annabelle's with us tonight. Emery's with us tonight. Nice to have you both with us here on Facebook Live. Annabelle is she's the future of Sasquatch research. She is. She's only in kindergarten, and she already has such a keen interest on the Sasquatch Bigfoot that I know by the time she's gone through college and gets her anthropology degree, if it hasn't been solved, she'll be out to solve it. She'll be out to prove that it's all true. And I said this a couple of weeks ago on this program. I said, if Bob Gimlin or Roger Patterson had a doctor in front of their names, when that film was shown, when that was shot, when that was spread across this country of ours, theaters and television, it would have been decided that they do exist. But because it was just a couple cowboys from Yakima, Washington, they had no credibility. I think the credibility is in those few frames of film, the 60 millimeter film that's been studied and studied and studied. Studied over and over. I mean, every frame of that film's been analyzed, been slowed down, been stabilized. You look at the original one. You look at it once. You look at it twice. Anybody that has any knowledge about animals knows that is not a man in a suit. For one thing, the length of the arms, the length of from the shoulder to the elbow. It's too long for us. The way that it walks, we cannot walk that way. We can kind of act like we walk that way, but we don't walk that way. And the speed these powerful creatures can move through the forest. They can make as much noise as they want, or they can be as silent as any animal that we know. We know that. The Sasquatch is something. During the day, it shares the forest. And at night, it owns it. That's not my words. I stole those words from a woman. I heard her say that. And I said, that is so, so true. So true. People have been camping, and all of a sudden they'll hear the last couple, 3 footsteps as it walks into the camp light. They didn't hear it move through the forest. You know what it was doing? It was checking them out. It was curious. I have to tell you. Let's see. Wait, a couple people. Jeff says, the brain won't let you believe. That's right, Jeff. You are absolutely correct. The brain will not accept what you've seen because it's so amazing and it's so incredible. What about the one piece of film footage with the sheriff and he's got a woman in his car with him and they're going down this highway? I think it was the state of Washington, I think it was in. And you see the shadow go across the road and he goes, what was that? I mean, I guarantee you that man thinks about that at least once every day. We're all a good example of that. When you first were interested in the Bigfoot Sasquatch legend, how many times did you look at that Patterson Gimlin film? How many times have you looked at it? Hundreds of times. You've stared at that film. And every time you stare at it, you notice something different. Of course, then you get the silliness of people saying there was a Sasquatch killed, or what's the word? That's the silliest story that's ever been. That's the silliest thing. Oh, God. And you know, I've talked to so many people over the years that's had a Sasquatch in their sights on their rifle. Especially the ones where it knows it's there. The Sasquatch knows you're there. And you've got that rifle raised, and you're looking through that sight. And that sight has brought that Sasquatch closer and closer and closer to you. And as soon as he makes eye contact, looks in your direction, you have doubts. Many people say because it's so human-like. I can't shoot this. It's so human-like. Many people have said after looking at this, the size, the mass, and it's just its attitude in general, that it does not care, is not intimidated by you at all. That if I shoot it, what if I don't kill it? Not only that, what about the 2, 3, 4 that you do not see? That are in the forest watching you at the same time. And you think if you shoot one, ask Fred Beck, of course he's gone now, but you know, in the Ape Canyon story from the 20s, where they shot one, supposedly it went down into a crevice, and that night the cabin they were staying in was pummeled by rocks and debris all night long, and you could hear the screams of them. As soon as it was daybreak, They were gone. They were out of there. Leave. They left all their equipment. Jason says, I always wonder why Bigfoot is so mysterious. Well, that's the mystique, Jason. That is just the mystique of it all. What tells us in our minds when we see something like this, your first thing is you do not want to believe it. And if you're one of the people that have had a sighting that goes beyond 2 or 3 seconds, maybe a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you're the ones that's going to go back in the house and sit down. And you may not tell anyone. You may not even tell your wife. You may not even tell your children, but you'll be sitting there thinking about what you just saw. And at that very moment, you'll be thinking to yourself, are we safe? What I saw, are we safe? Will this harm me? My first reaction is, you saw it that one time, but how many times did you not see it? That it was there, it saw you, you did not see it, nothing happened. Nothing at all. Kind of like mountain lions, people, we had a mountain lion escape at a wildcat rescue here in Indiana. And right away I was called by the superintendent of the local school system. And he was concerned because he said he had children on his bus stops every morning. We've got a big cat loose here. What should I tell these parents? I told him this. I said, there are mountain lion populations, significant mountain lion populations, not just one loose in Indiana, but there are significant mountain lion populations in Idaho, Washington, Colorado, Northern California. And there's kids sitting on those bus stops every morning, and you never hear anything that's ever happened. Nothing. The Sasquatch, I believe their tendencies is somewhat mountain lion-like. For instance, mountain lion during the day likes to sleep up in a tree. Climb so far up, it finds the strongest limb, it'll stretch out, not move, blend right in among the leaves. You could walk right underneath it, wouldn't know it. But here's what usually happens. The mountain lion, like most wild animals, sleeps very lightly, like a Sasquatch would. And it can hear amazingly, like a Sasquatch can. Has an amazing sense of smell, just like the Sasquatch. And when it's laying up in that tree branch, up in that tree, and it sees you 50 yards away, here's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to climb down the back of that tree. It's going to be off into the forest and gone, and you did not even see it. And the Sasquatch will do the same thing. Once he spots you from a distance away, not unless there is feels some sort of a threat, he will just simply turn around and disappear into the forest and be gone. And he has the mountain lion trick too. They climb a tree. Many times people have said, I followed the tracks, and Larry, all of a sudden they just disappeared. They quit completely. Here's what's happened. They've climbed up a tree. They found a strong tree. They can climb up it. They blend right in. They're practically invisible. And he might have walked right underneath it and never had any idea. Then there's the complete opposite. There's a gentleman that was in a forest hunting, and he was playing distress rabbit call to attract coyotes to shoot them, which why I can't figure that out. I still call the coyote God's dog. They're here for a purpose. And just to simply kill them is just stupid. Stupid. Same as wolves. So they were playing this distress rabbit call. This gentleman was up in this tree, in his tree stand, trying to shoot the coyote. Well, he got his, you talk about karma. Here come a Sasquatch, walked up underneath the tree and stared up at him, took about 2 laps around that tree and walked off into the forest and was gone. That man stayed up in that tree stand for most of the evening. He was afraid to come out of that tree stand, climb down there, and then walk back to his truck because he was so intimidated. He was so frightened. When I talked to the gentleman in Wabash, Indiana, where they had the Sasquatch that attacked their camp, and he had just gotten back from fighting the war in Vietnam, and he had been in some pretty bad stuff. He was a special ranger, and he had seen horrible things. But when that Sasquatch started circling their camp, before that, throwing rocks from the river up toward their camp, and he said it sounded like mortar shells going through the jungle, except there was no explosion at the end. And he said, Larry, that was the most terrified I ever have been. It's when we were sitting there next to our tent, and it was so foggy you could hardly see the hand in front of your face. And this thing just kept circling the camp. And he said, we only got one or two good glimpses of it because of the fog and the darkness. But that's all it took. That is all it took. I'm watching this thing. I am watching this thing, and the size of it and the speed that it's moving is unbelievable. Unbelievable. He realized, he'd been fighting an enemy for a long time. I think he did 2 tours of Vietnam. God bless him. And to be that scared that he said was the most frightening experience he had ever been through. Larry, my friend George Sewell believes in things he never saw. He writes books, was on Haunted on Netflix. Jeff, you can see the ripples move under the hair on the patty film. I know you can. Absolutely, you can. You can look at that film once. Anybody that's looked at that film once says, that's a guy to see, well, you're just stupid. You're just silly. Science says we don't want anything to do with it because we don't have anything that we prove it. We need a body. Oh, I'm not going to be the one to bring a body in. I'm not going to be the one to bring part of a body in. I don't have anything to do with killing a Sasquatch. Remember when they had that show on Discovery Channel or Killing Bigfoot? Boy, I don't know where they lasted all those idiots. But in a situation like that, you almost wish they'd have big, big problems. Big problems. Have them set up in camp with all their high-powered rifles and technology. Technology does nothing with these. Nothing. Those game cameras. Now, the orangutan's impossible to film on a game cam. It's impossible. Gorillas are very difficult. We know they exist. Chimpanzees, they could see them right off the bat. They just don't care because the chimpanzees is a tough customer. They're all tough customers. And the Sasquatch is the king of them. But it's not an ape. It is not an ape. The reason I say that, because if it was just simply an ape, if we just classified it as an ape, for one thing, we know they're smarter than that. I've talked to the guys that have, set up their cameras, tripwires, so the only thing they could possibly break the tripwire is something 6 foot or taller. So deer are not going to break it. Mountain lions aren't going to break it. Bears aren't going to break it. But neither does a Sasquatch. Because even in complete darkness, they know it's there. They can see it. They can smell it. William Dranginas, who had the I Gotcha game cam, good friend of mine, good friend. He invented that game cam. And after about 1.5 years or 2 of using it, we sat down one time and I said, are you having any luck with your game? No. He said, I'm not. And he said at that moment, I said, they can smell them, can't they? He says, yep, they sure can. They can smell them and they avoid them. He says, I think he put it one way. He says, they can tell you what factory it was made. Because when you're walking through the forest, one sees you. They can size you up and know what you're up to and about. 30 seconds. They can smell your ammunition. They can smell your gun. Smell all that stuff. Anthropologist Joan Jeffers said whenever she went, she had a feeding spot where they'd come out of the forest and they'd make apples out of a potato sack. She'd hang it from a tree. And she said, if I take a gun with me, even if I'm sitting in my car, they don't come out. They don't take the food. But if I go there without anything, without any equipment, without any weapons, they will every time. Loretta, why didn't they break into the cabin? They're certainly strong enough. I've always wondered that. Well, you got to figure that those little cabins built out of that heavy timber, Loretta, that'd be still quite a challenge. And, you know, maybe they actually didn't want to break into the cabin because I said they were smart. And then they'd be in close quarters with these guys. And those guys didn't have weapons. So maybe that's what stopped them. But they sure beat the heck out of that cabin all night long. And what's the most convincing thing about that story, that report, is these were miners. These guys were tough. And they left their equipment there. So that shows you right there, lots and lots of money that was worth. They left it. Do you know of any sightings near Monroe Lake? Yes, Betsy. In fact, we had a gentleman on here. Austin Lee might come in tonight. He comes and joins the party sometimes. And he watched Sasquatch kill a deer. He was hunting. And he saw the deer first, and all of a sudden the Sasquatch bolted out of the brush. It pummeled its fist into the rib cage of that deer. It fell to the ground. It grabbed it by its legs. It beat it up against a tree. Then he carried it off underneath its arm, like it was carrying a book or a newspaper. And Austin told me, he said that changed everything as far as his fun in the outdoors. Fun in the outdoors changed everything. And like Linda says, thinking about your own sanity. I know. Am I crazy what I just saw? You know, am I nuts? Did I really just see that? Couldn't be. How could something that big hide? And this would be I've heard so many times guys that have gone hunting and fishing in the same area for years and years and years and years, never see anything. Like down there, you talked about Monroe Lake. I'm talking about Park Monroe State Forest, not too far from Lake Monroe. And those raccoon hunters, they confronted one. Well, they didn't get confronted, but basically what happened as soon as they set their dogs out into the woods to chase raccoons, there's something else I've never figured out. And one was behind him and broke its limb. And they turned around and looked at him, sized him up, turned around, walked in the forest. They called in the dogs. And another time where they told me, we'll never hunt there again. We'll never hunt there again. We can't be in these woods to be comfortable when we know what's in there, what we've seen. As always, the Yeti, North America's greatest drinking device, is my co-host as we talk all Bigfoot. This will keep that beverage cold for 2-3 weeks. It probably would. I need to test that for sure. But I'll tell you right now, there's nothing better than an ice cold Yeti and some good old sweet tea. That's a winner there. Don't forget about the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, August 15th. There may be tickets available. It was sold out, but some people will not be able to attend that day. So there may be tickets or passes available. I encourage you to go. They got some wonderful speakers. Cliff from Finding Bigfoot. Now I drew a complete blank. I'll be there. I'll be speaking. Isn't that pathetic? I'm drawing a complete blank. That's all I talk about for forever. If you see one, many you do not see. Stephanie says, again, the black cat down by the river. When you're talking black cats, Stephanie, principal at McCordsville Elementary. I'm drawing a blank tonight. I'm telling you right now, this is Parkinson's. But we have several. We've had all kinds of big cats over the years, 40 plus years. And when we were based in Indianapolis, or Speedway, I should say, the gentleman that owned the Mug and Bud also owned the pond down by Spencer, Indiana. And, you know, it's for years and years and years, the sheriff departments all over the country, especially in the eastern part of the United States, people have reported seeing these black cats, panthers. And his wife was down there at their little lake down by Spencer, Indiana. And she called him in the middle of the day. She says, you know, she said, there's a cat over on by the lake. And he said, well, so? She says, no, a cat. Like what Larry would have. Big black cat. And it's always strange because it seems like we get these black panther sightings along with the Sasquatch sightings. Yeah, she said, there Stephanie goes, she says, I saw it more than once. I know I'll tell you the truth. I have a friend. I'll tell you this story. I have a friend who was a sheriff, and they'd had so many reports on these black panthers being spotted, especially in southern Indiana, that they felt they had to do some investigative work, because if they didn't and someone got hurt or killed, you know, they'd look terrible. So my friend's job was to investigate into these sightings. So his trail led to Bloomington, Indiana. And there used to be a junkyard there in Bloomington. And there was a man that owned that junkyard that had 3 cats. He had an African lion, and he had 2 black leopards, 2 black panthers. Well, somehow, some way, a youngster got back where he kept these cats and got hurt by the lion. So he didn't know what to do, because he still had, I believe they destroyed the lion, which is maddening. But so one of the guys that worked for him said they looked out back one day and he was opening up their enclosures, and he let them walk out of their enclosures right off into the forest. And that was, it's been 30 years ago. So, you know, if they got out in the forest, I mean, there's all kinds of food for them. I mean, geez. And of course, after dark, they're invisible. You can't see them. So, and we've had reports around here where I live. We've had the Black Panther reports, and we've also had the Sasquatch reports. It's one of the reasons I wanted to buy this place. Robert said there's the reason pictures of it are hard to get, because most sightings are so quick and so fast that one does not think to grab their camera and take a picture real quick. That's not in their mindscape at all. Because for one thing, they're in shock, because they're seeing this thing. They're seeing this thing that looks so intimidating. And if they look it in the eyes, the intelligence, and what I've always said, the outdoors, the woodlands, where they live, all across this country of ours, when we walk into those same wild areas, we don't have a chance. We do not have the survival instincts. We do not have the intelligence they have when it comes to this environment. I mean, Bob Jackson, Yellowstone Park Ranger, said when he would patrol Yellowstone, he said it would take about 2.5 weeks to really get in tune to the outdoors. And that's not seeing anyone hardly at all, because he was hunting poachers. And he said after about 2 weeks, you become part of it. when the wind touches your face, you can feel things. You can hear more things. You can see more things. You can smell more things after the pollution of civilization is leaving your body. So just think, something that lives there all the time is so attuned to the outdoors, is so attuned to its surroundings. I mean, you talk about people that go through, they're looking for these tree breaks and all this sort of thing. Well, I'll tell you this right now. The Sasquatch or Bigfoot, they see things we don't. I mean, they can track you from just a small broken leaf or twig, stuff we would never see. And if they track you, you won't hear them. I can remember coming out of Morgan Monroe State Forest, and we had a pretty good idea that there was one coming in behind us. Didn't know for sure, because it was just about dark. And we had no flashlights, which is really dumb. So we're walking down this trail, and every so often I'd raise my hand, and we'd stop. And you'd hear it, shoot, shoot, and then it'd stop. We'd start walking again, raise our hands to stop, shoom, shoom, then it would stop. Now, at the time when it was happening, because I went down there really, what I was down there to do is I was collecting rattlesnakes for my lectures. And I thought it was probably a deer. But then I thought, why would a deer be following us out of the woods? You know, this is where they're hunted, this forest. It's not like here, our wildlife preserve, or 25 acres of wild. The deer come up to the house because they know I don't hunt and my neighbor doesn't hunt, and they feel safe. But there, in that forest where they are hunted, there is no reason for them to follow you. Could have been something else. I've had mountain lion reports in that area. The Department of Natural Resources says no, but I've had people talk to me and have said, I saw a cougar there. And I will tell you, there's not too much that looks like a cougar that could be misidentified. Of course, I did have a conservation officer tell me one time there was a report of a black panther in the neighborhood. And when he went to investigate it, he said he saw the black panther. It was the biggest black Great Dane he'd ever seen. So Bob Farrell says, hello, everyone. Should have a get-together some weekend at Morgan Monroe. You know, that would be a good idea. Hello, Lee from Kentucky. Linda says, wish I could go. And, you know, here's this young lady who's going to be in the first grade, Annabelle, one of my new best friends up from northern Indiana. And she has said something with more wisdom, more intelligence, that is so, so true. She says, I don't think you should be afraid of Bigfoot. If you respect him, he will respect you. And I think she's absolutely right. I think she's absolutely right. You know, what? I have no reason to fear them. I mean, I've been told some stories that will make you wonder. But people have always asked me, he says, well, I'll tell you what to do if you ever run into this situation. Well, my knowledge of primates, and I've worked with chimps and orangutans, and of course, monkeys, baboons, and so forth, drills, and don't make eye contact. Look at the ground. If you're that close and you feel that intimidated, and act like it's no big deal. Some people run. You're not going to outrun this if it really wanted you. If it really wanted you, you're not going to outrun this. But why would it want you? When that Indian, Native American woman called me about Morgan Monroe State Forest, she told me, she said, Larry, she said, there are 5 of them in there. Just as matter of fact as can be. She said, there are 5 of them in there. She says, I can call them in. But you realize if you go with me and I do that, if you get between the male and the female, or a male and the baby, the male will kill you. I said, oh, really? So how does he do that? She said, he will grab you by the ankles and beat you up against a tree. So when she told me that, I had already looked into a report in Washington. A sheriff one night heard coyotes in the distance, and he heard something that kind of sounded like a coyote, but not quite exact. Pretty close, though. And he could hear the 2 sounds coming together. Then he heard what sounded like an almighty battle. Well, as soon as it got light, he walked back there to see if he could find anything. And he did. He found 2 coyotes that had been killed, that had been beaten up against a tree. I didn't go with her down there. I would have, I love the area, but I didn't go with her. No. Bob Farrell says, you may need a bodyguard at the conference. What did I say? Hello there, Carrie. Parky strikes again. Yes, it does. Jennifer, Annabelle also says you don't need to see Bigfoot to believe. Well, that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. I mean, anybody that's done in any research on it, read any books on it, after you read the books and so forth, you realize that there's something to this. There's absolutely something to this. Because why would all these people lie? As John Green told me, he says it's either the greatest hoax ever pulled off, or one of the most fascinating, if not the most fascinating creature we have on this planet. Stephanie says that ran right in front of her in Sullivan County. Yeah. Jeremy said, did the SARS-CoV-2 come from Sasquatch? No, I don't think so. And Robert brings up a great point here. He brings up an outstanding point. The reason we went to the woods for 20 years and we never saw about bobcat. They just wanted to see one. There's park rangers, and well, I remember talking to a park ranger in Rocky Mountain National Park. He'd been there for years and years and years. He never saw a bobcat. And I believe he told me he had never seen a mountain lion there as well. What do you think of the man that died in Indiana? Walt, I'm not familiar with that report, that story. I'm not familiar with it. Jeff Williams, a friend of mine, was coming back from the store at night in Spencer, Indiana, going down a gravel road, going back to the woods to his dad's trailer. And while she was driving, she said a big black thing ran across the road in front of her and was gone. If you knew her, she really doesn't talk that much, so I know she wasn't lying. I don't think she was lying either. Just like I got a call one day from a woman, and we were talking, and she was telling me about her son and her daughter. And at first I thought she was telling me what great students they are, what great citizens they are. So I thought she was setting me up to see if they'd volunteer to help us with our animals. I thought that's where she was going with it. No. She was going with it because they had seen something, and she wanted to tell me that these kids wouldn't lie, and they were more responsible than that. And they were coming back from a basketball game in Indianapolis down an old gravel road, and something was staying along the road. At first, they thought it was a cow. And as they got closer, they realized it was on two legs and it was huge. And when they got a really, really good look at that, because it didn't move, it just stood there along the side of the road. It was waiting for them just to go on by. Well, as soon as that young man saw that, he started screaming, "We didn't see that. We didn't see that." And he hit that accelerator, and the young lady just started screaming. And they came home and told their mother this story. She called me. The weird part about the story, I was getting ready to go to Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Conference and speak. And I told her, I said, let me give you some advice. Don't tell many people this story, because nobody will probably believe you. And here's what I would like to do. I would like to, when I get back from New York, sit down with your daughter and your son. I'd like to make a drawing of what they saw. Well, when I called them, when I got back from New York, a man answered the phone. And I said, "This is Larry Battson. I was talking to, I assume, your wife about a sighting your son and daughter had made." And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any idea what you're talking about, man." And he hung up. And it kind of made me smile, because I thought to myself, wow, they took my advice. They didn't tell anybody about it. I would have liked to have talked to him in person. It would have probably been absolutely fascinating. But yeah, that's the thing. That's why you don't want to hang pictures like this up. You know, if you've got that garage, and, you should hang it up. I think it's great. And you can get this print, you can from me. Yeah, that's feel like something watching. Then we have the new one, which is now available. Limited edition. Yeah, there we go. And that's available as well. So message me. And all the funding that we receive from our artwork and prints and etc., it goes to our animal family, our bears and tigers, and alligators and all that such. The animals we take to schools and educate with. And when school was closed here in March, so was our bank account, our income. So that's one of the ways we raise money. Or if you'd like to just contribute to our animal family, you can. PayPal, lbatson@peoplepc.com, or Venmo, simply Larry Battson. It would be great. Any size donation is so appreciated. We just love it. And people have been very supportive in this time. It's been pretty tough. Very, very tough for us. We're talking all Bigfoot tonight. This is Larry Battson, Animal Guy. Also want to tell you, if you have kids, not just necessarily kids, but at 2 o'clock Monday through Saturday, it's animals, art, and fun. That's right. We talk about animals. We meet animals. We draw animals. If kids like to draw. If you like to draw, please join us. We have a great time. It's 2 o'clock Monday through Saturday. And we'll be doing this probably for the entire month of May. And we're also going to have a special summer thing that we're going to do. But every Friday night, 10 o'clock right here, we talk all big. And it's a lot of fun. And guess what I have here with me? Besides the Yeti, North America's greatest drinking device. I'm so proud. I have my copy. Yeah, the best Sasquatch book ever written by my friend John Green. Sasquatch, the Apes Among Us. And of course, there's the Patterson film. There's the totem pole with the Sasquatch images carved into it. And there's my friend, the late John Green. And that's certainly beat up, Larry. It certainly is, because I've read it a lot. I don't know how many pages it is, but if you can get a copy of this, it's fascinating reading. And all the classic stories from Ape Canyon to the Albert Ostman report, all behind the scenes of the Patterson Gimlin film as well. And also, I want to talk about our Facebook page. We're very proud of it. It's called Footers Forum. We invite you to visit it. We have some great stuff on there. We have my interview with John Green and Bob Gimlin together. It's the only time they did an interview together. That's on Footers Forum. There's also some other things with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service we've done, and I think you'll enjoy it. So it's Footers Forum. It's managed by my good friend Cody Herring, who's now, I need to call his wife and apologize, that he is now eaten up with the Sasquatch Bigfoot legend, and he's become a rabid researcher. He has, and he wants to, he is. So I apologize to his wife because it won't be good. Oh my gosh. I know. Loretta says, I have that book. Good, Loretta. That's the book. That's the Bible of Bigfootdom. It absolutely is. If anybody has any questions or comments, I'm always open to them. It's Friday night, here we are talking Bigfoot with Annabelle, who may be the best researcher I've ever met. Mm-hmm. I think she's all perspective at a very young age. Cody Herring says, I have a problem. Yeah, I have to tell you, Cody and this audience. My good friend from Chautauqua Lake, Peter Weimer, he called me one time and he says, what would it take to bring you up to give a talk on Bigfoot? I told him. And he said, well, maybe we can get a couple, 3 events lined up while you're up here. I said, okay. Well, before it was all said and done, he was doing a Bigfoot conference. A lot of people thought it was me. It wasn't me. It was Peter Weimer. I just inspired him because I'd seen him at he had a booth set up at the sport shows, and I'd always talk to him about the Bigfoot. I gave him the tapes, the audio tapes that I was recording at that time. And he just, he always said, this Bigfoot thing, man, he says, you ought to do something. I do. I give talks and stuff. But he wanted to go full blown. So he decided to have a conference. And he had Billy Willard up and myself and Steve Coles from New York, Melissa Hovey, and I think that was everybody. And I told his wife the very first night, I said to her, I says, you'll learn to hate Bigfoot. And she gave me this honest look. And now they're divorced because he's got him a trailer now. He has done the video. I have seen Bigfoot. I believe it's available on his site and all that stuff. And it's yeah, absolutely. Hey, Stephanie, my experience with Larry and I, location, date, time. That was, I don't think that was a Bigfoot, Cody. That was a black leopard, Black Panther. Maybe I misinterpreted it. Sometimes when you're trying to sound like you've got a brain and you're talking and the words just don't come out right. You go to the Yeti, North America's greatest drinking device. It's so much fun. Talking to Bob Gimlin the other day, they've had all this stuff go on about what supposedly happened when they filmed the Patterson Gimlin film, and how there was some. Oh, I'm not even going to repeat the story because it's so dumb. So it's so many people are angry about it, but it's too dumb to even. The people that say it's true, they have no way to prove that it's true. And poor Bob Gimlin, he's just kind of stuck in the middle. And I was concerned for him. And he basically told me he doesn't care. If it doesn't anger him, that people are saying bad things about it. But Yeah, he simply said he doesn't care. He doesn't care, really. It's like when we were talking, when we were doing an interview, Bob Harmonious. He, the guy that was supposedly in the Bigfoot suit when they did the Gimlin film. And I said, should we go over to his house and just whoop him? And Bob says, we should just knock on his door. He's a neighbor practically. We just whoop him. He's a whooping. Stephanie says, I want to know how we can help. Well, if you're referring to our animal family, funding is always a big help. If you're referring to Cody Herring going out looking for Bigfoot, that's an adventure in its own. Yes. I can remember when we were up by a fallen rock, we were chasing down these Bigfoot reports that were going on there. And we took Cody. I don't know how old Cody was there. He's a teenager. And we were all pretty, I'll have to tell you, that particular night, we were all pretty wondering if there's anything to this. And if there is, we better watch out. Because their description of the activity of the Sasquatch things that were going on was pretty intense. So when we decided that we were going to go back in the woods and just wait, see if anything shows up, it was intense. I have to tell you, it was intense. And then I broke my biggest rule: don't go at night, because to go at night is just stupid, just pathetic. I couldn't do anything at night with these things. Oh, and then my good friend, I won't even give his name out, but we were talking one night, and I said, you know what we should do? I said, we should look on YouTube, because there has somewhere some gorilla sounds. I know there has to be gorilla sounds. Well, he did. He found them, and they took their big old boom blaster down into the hills of southern Indiana. And apparently it was before the Corona deal going on. There were a fair amount of people. And they got back there one night and they started blasting off these gorilla sounds through the forest. And there was people clamoring for their cars. They were trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. It's like my friend in Ohio. He said one night, he says, I was driving down the road. He says, I could hear it. I could hear the Sasquatch along the river. And all of a sudden, it was really screaming. It was really carrying on. And he said he saw the poor Amish people. They were running salmon nets. He said he saw the poor Amish people running out of the woods and running for their buggies. He says, my gosh. Shannon Johnson says, what do you think of Todd Standing's footage? I'm not sure. I am not sure. He is many of the points. I've listened to some of the things he said. I know I was on Todd Standing's and Jeff Meldrum's podcast show. In fact, it was the last one they did, and I thought he was a nice man, but some things simply do not add up. One of the things that I have a problem, the one shot where it just shows the face and kind of looking through the branches, and he's got it's quite lengthy. I can't see a Sasquatch doing that. Now, God love him, John Bendernagel thinks that a lot of it thought it was on the level, and Jeff Meldrum has worked with him. So I just can't make a determination. There's certain things that he does that really completely I don't like. Certain things he says I don't think are completely accurate. Then there's certain things that he says that are very accurate. I mean, but that's true with anybody does this. Everybody has their own interpretation and thoughts about particular things on the subject. No experts. I mean, there's just people that have read more stuff and accumulated more reports. And you take these reports, you take what people have said, and you make some behavior of these animals, whatever they may be. And you realize very quickly, like, dang, these things are smart. They have to be brilliant to avoid us as much as they have. And I'm sure there are videos out there that have been said to be a hoax that aren't a hoax. Then there's some, we had Ivan Marks for years that put out these pitiful, he put his wife in a suit and filmed it. Now they were pathetic. That's just sad. If you ever have a chance, I don't even know if they're on YouTube or not. But John Green and I used to have numerous conversations about Ivan Marks. It was not positive. I will tell you that. It's not. And he told me some other stories, just reference to wildlife. I think he told me the story one time about how Ivan Marks captured a live cougar. He lassoed it out of a tree and no, you did. No, you did. You don't lasso a live cougar and get it under control. Not unless you've got some kind of drugs that you're using with it, some kind of a tranquilizer. No. You'll be tripped. You'll be ripped from one end to the other. So it's just. I'm sorry, I should laugh. But Todd Standing, I was going to have him on here, but a lot of the Bigfoot people, they thought that they wouldn't like it. They don't want to give him any credibility at all, period. A lot of them think it's just all a bunch of nonsense. I don't, I've just looked at it. I think some of it's just, they look good. But hi, Rose. Nice to have you with us tonight. Sizzler, the animal guy, we're talking all Bigfoot. It's Friday night. We're just hanging out. We've all, I know, probably gotten enough sleep, having to stay at home and find something different to do. But I'll tell you, television has gotten so creative, and the internet has got amazing. All these different artists that do concerts in their homes, and remember other members of their band in different parts of the country have all been able to simultaneously put it all together. It's just fantastic. I sat and watched one with Brad Paisley. I watched one with the Doobie Brothers. It was great. Shannon says he said he has been watching that group for a while, but I find it strange that he did not ever get any more footage since he says they are comfortable with him. Well, there you go. You see, that's one of the things I don't understand. I don't understand it, and I think their temperament is much like the wild canines, wolves and coyotes, because I've raised wolves and coyotes, and anytime you would go into their enclosure, I don't care what it was, if you're carrying a shovel, something they're not familiar with, they would avoid you. They would simply avoid you. Even though they're completely, they're not domesticated, by any stretch of the imagination, but they go back in without that shovel or something, they would come up to me, and everything was cool. But they still had that look in the eye that they were wary. They were always wary. And I think that this is the mentality of the Sasquatches. What do you think about Bigfoot scent? Well, there's been too many people that have reported a horrible aroma of rotten chicken and locker room, you know, which makes sense. I mean, big, large animal like that, can you imagine? I'm sure they have sweat glands. You know, they have to worry about going into the lake and bathing. They don't care. Plus, it keeps insects away. When we went up to Canada, we fishing one time in the spring. God, the mosquitoes were terrible. They weighed about a pound. They just eat you up, and you put on off and all these other things they manufacture for mosquito repellent, and it wasn't working. We'd light mosquito coils inside of our tents and just take in that smoke. It was probably killing us, smelling all that smoke from those things. But we'd watch the Native Americans up there, and you'd never see them doing this. Never bad mosquito. So I got to talking to somebody, and they said, when you smell like the environment, the mosquitoes will leave you alone. So guess what we did? We just light up a campfire. We just hover over the smoke and get all smoked up, and didn't use any more of these alcohol-related mosquito repellents. And finally, about the time we were ready to go home, we must have smelled like the environment that they left us alone. But boy, I'll tell you, when we got into Minnesota coming home, the first McDonald's we went to and walked in there, everybody kind of looked in our direction going, whoa, boy, you guys are kind of right. I've had scent disappear. Yeah. I know what you're talking about, Rose. Absolutely. I do know what you're talking about. Winds change. The scent is not always reported, though. So it may be a musk gland in the males. It may be a musk gland in the females. Who knows? Will we ever find out? Well, maybe one day. To tell you the truth, I kind of hope we don't. You know, people asking, you want to be the one? No, I don't want to be the one that proves they're real. I mean, they did that to the poor mountain gorilla, and now you know, they were being killed when they were discovered. And product make called bush meat, where these sick people would eat monkeys and gorillas and chimps. Bush meat's what they call it. I remember talking to a U.S. Fish and Wildlife officer. And that was his job. He'd go to airports, checking shipments coming in from Africa, and check for bush meat, for monkeys. People would eat that. It's sick. Just sick. Oh, sick. Rose says, I hope they stay in hiding. I hope they do too. I'm going to say, I've said this before. There is someone out there that's got a film that is better than the Patterson-Gimlin film, but they're not going to show it. They're not going to release it because wherever it was filmed, maybe it was this place they've saved their entire lives. They have this beautiful retirement area back in the middle of the woods. And if they go show a film of something like this and the location's discovered, every guy in camouflage is going to be showing up at their doorstep. Katie, hi Katie, going out of Bellingham, Washington, on Chuckanut Drive. There's a plaque up on the mountain that says Bigfoot lives here. Yeah, the state of Washington, that's a part of the economy, Bigfoot. Various souvenirs and things. Oh, I would love to see that. Maybe Katie has a picture. You know, maybe she does. We would put it on Footer's Forum if she does. Any pictures you have, we're always sharing. He would love for you to send him pictures of tracks, whatever, anything we can find of interest. Yep, Loretta says she's seen that sign as well. Well, here's the craziest thing. Right around here, there's so many of those walking Sasquatch carvings out of plywood. and all that sort of thing. I want to stop and talk to these people. I said, I noticed your yard stuff, your Sasquatches. Is there a reason? My good late friend Glenn Baker picked me up one day, and he had a beautiful, beautiful pond. Beautiful pond. And he'd gone to one or two of my Bigfoot lectures. I talked to him about it from time to time. And he was interested. He called me up one day and he says, Larry, he says, you gonna be home? I says, I am. He says, I got me a 4x8 sheet of plywood. What I want you to do is just draw me a Bigfoot. I'm gonna cut it out, paint it black, and put it back by my woods. I said, bring it over. And he did. It's still there. We lost him a few years ago. Glenn Baker we lost. But I asked his wife, I said, do you still have up the Sasquatch back? Yeah, it's still back there. And that was the funniest thing, that big smile on his face when he pulled up our driveway and that 4x8 sheet of plywood. And we sat there and talked, and I drew the silhouette of a Sasquatch like it was just standing there looking at you. And then here's another one for you. I built a Sasquatch once for a display out of paper mache and dock foam. Took 3 4x8 sheets of dock foam, bolted them together, then carved out a 3D Sasquatch. In fact, that's the Sasquatch that we took up to Cleveland, Ohio when we did the program with John Green. Well, when we moved here, I didn't have any place to put it, really. And so I just set it out in the field by our house. So I have this good friend, good friend. And he just show up and visit sometimes. And he's coming up our driveway in his van. And what he did, he went to gun shows and different flea markets. And he sold stuff. He made stuff. He was just, Larry Bentley was his name. Little short guy, funniest guy. So he's coming up our driveway. It's just about dusk. And he looks up our driveway and he can see this thing out in the field. He goes, oh my God. He goes, there it is. I'm gonna get Larry a picture of this thing. So he's crawling on his belly. He's crawling on his belly. And after he's crawled on his belly for a little bit, he's realizing it's not moving. So when we got home, it was like family. He was already in the house. He'd already parked himself. And when we got home, we saw his van. Oh, look, Larry Bentley came to see us. And we walked in the house, and he says, you got me. I says, what? He says, I saw that thing out in the field. He says, I was crawling on my belly. And I laughed so hard. God bless him. He wanted to get a picture for me. And he figured that was going to be the moment that he'd get that done. So that's what he did. Or tried to do. And, oh, God, I laughed so hard. Oh, my Lord. We've got a group of young ladies, Sasquatch researchers that have bonded here. Loretta and Rose and Katie and Rose and Katie. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I know who'll be your leader, though. It'll be Annabelle. Yeah, it'll be Annabelle. That's the future of Bigfoot research. I'm going to tell you that right now. Let me find something here. I always play these. I agree with you, Larry, about someone somewhere has a Sasquatch film in a box up in the attic or garage hidden away. Well, there's a photograph I have of from the 40s, and I should have it on here one week. I've got 2 boxes of Bigfoot stuff that I've just kind of packed away now that I haven't gotten out. I need to get it out. Okay. But Grandpa, it was from the state of Washington. Grandpa used to talk about how he'd call them these people would come out of the forest and eat his apples and the grandkids and so forth. So what do you mean, Grandpa? These people that live in the forest, they're hair-covered people. And he said, he was telling about how they'd eat all of his apples. Well, the kids just laughed at him. Said, Grandpa, you're nuts. Well, Grandpa dies. So you know what happens? Hi, DeGay. Grandpa dies, and the kids are going through his stuff. And they open up this box that's filled with pictures. And sure enough, one of the pictures is of a Sasquatch. And when they saw that picture, they thought a whole lot differently about Grandpa. They wish they had listened to him more. We're going to play these recordings. I like to play them because we always have different listeners and viewers and so forth with us each week. And we do have tremendous audiences for this Friday Night Bigfoot, and I appreciate it so much. So I always like to play this, and I have many of you that have looked into this, that have said they've heard these sounds in their forest. Now, I'll explain to you, as I've explained before, this was recorded not by a high-quality recording system. It was done by a little macro cassette, something that you can fit in your pocket and walk around in an office and say, hey, we need more pencils, we need more paper, blah, 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 blah. So this was recorded just about daybreak because the birds are just starting to be up and you can hear the birds. But if you listen in the background, you can hear these very distinctive screams. So I think that's a good one. That was a good one. Someone tried to tell me that it was coyotes. Oh, really? We have coyotes here. Like I said, I raised coyotes. I've heard a lot of coyotes, and I've never heard any coyote sounds like that. There was a law enforcement officer that supposedly heard those sounds, and he walked into 2 8-foot ones practically. So, and I know Bob Farrell from Perry, Indiana, talked about hearing those same sounds when he was in the field, in the woods. So, well, that'd be something else, though, wouldn't it? I mean, to hear that, that would be that'd be chilling. I've heard that once here, and it was about 4:30 in the morning. In fact, we were getting ready to go do school programs. We were in the process, and I was outside, and I heard those way back in our forest. He said, we have Indian burial mounds. You know what the Native Americans always said? That Sasquatches guarded the Indian burial mounds. Well, we have, I think I counted 5 of them. And I've thought about it many a time. Go back there at night and just kind of hang out and see what happens. Shanna says, chill bump, someone is going to have to come here and walk me out to my car when I leave for work. No, you won't. Why, you have to go to work at midnight? That. Oh my gosh. God love you. But that is special. Yellowstone Park Ranger Bob Jackson described the sound of the Sasquatches in Yellowstone. That when they scream like that, it said to him, he said it sounded like 1,000 elk going to their death. I always thought that was an interesting analogy. And there was a fellow in Ohio that's had so many experiences, and he had gone somewhat public. He made the papers and the TV, which he regretted later. But he got a call one day from a fellow from Saskatchewan and said, I want to come down and investigate your area. He said, come on. So the guy shows up. He's about 6'6", camoed out, has a long Bowie knife on his side. He said, my friend said he wasn't pretty. He wasn't pretty. And they're sitting around the coffee table that night, and he says, I'm going to go back to the woods. And Doug says, okay, Jumbo Woods, just go straight out my back door, climb over that fence, and then all that back through there is Jumbo Woods. That's where we found the tracks. That's where we've heard sounds. It's where we've seen shadows and all that. So this fella goes back there, climbs over that fence, takes about 2-3 steps, maybe more, maybe less. And he basically about walks right into it. And this thing let off one of those screams like we just heard from about 5 feet away. And that guy basically crawled on all hands and knees back to my friend's house. Couldn't hold a cup of coffee for an hour. And the next morning he tells my friend, he says, you got big problems. You got a Sasquatch in those woods. Big one. I'm going back to Saskatchewan. That's what he said. And he went back to Saskatchewan. And he heard those screams hit him right basically in the face. And he was done. I thought to myself, wow, if you're any kind of a Bigfoot finder, a looker for Bigfoot guy, you better look for a different hobby, because what do you think would happen? You know, that's funny, because I'll be sitting here talking. I've got a snake right behind me over here in one of our terrariums. And I've done this program, and people that are pursuing Bigfoot will be talking about how terrified they are of snakes. I thought, well, you better get over that fear of snakes, because if you run into a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, I guarantee that you'll be, not unless you're Annabelle, you'll be thinking twice, why did I decide to do this? Because John Green said, the longer you do it, the more questions you will have. That's for sure. Want to remind everyone about our prints available with the funding to our animal family. Yeah, there's the one done. That's available. That's the newest one. And this one is available too. Yeah, feel like something watching it? Yeah, these are both available. We use the funding to help support our animal family for wildlife education in schools. And we surely hope that we'll be able to do that again, get over this virus, this whatever has been encompassed our country and the world. But 2:00 every day, Monday through Saturday. We have the kids on. We talk about animals and art and fun and music. We sing. That's right, I sing. And Wednesday nights at 9:30, it's all animal stories, telling about 41 years of traveling all over this country of ours with our collection of wild animals. There's a story or two to be told. And of course, on Friday nights, we talk all Bigfoot. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. I think so much of it. And love each and every one of you. And have a great evening. This is Battson. And we've been talking all Bigfoot on Facebook Live.